Now, yes, I know other channels have also worked on this what if video and all that, but I still want to give it a try. So what if the United Arab Republic remained? Now, for those who don't know what the United Arab Republic was, it was an attempt to create a pan-Arab state. The state was established when the Syrian delegation sent an envoy to Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser asking for a union. While Nasser initially disliked this idea and wanted a federation between the two states, he would later accept the idea of a union, thus creating the United Arab Republic in 1958. From the start of the United Arab Republic's lifetime, the country would face support and opposition across the Middle East. Within the country of Jordan and Iraq, fears of a possible union between Egypt and Syria was in the air. This especially scared the monarchies of the two states, as Nasser wasn't known for being open to the idea of monarchies across the Middle East. Due to this, the Jordanians and Iraqi monarchies would form the Arab Federation. The federation wouldn't last long, as Iraqi generals would overthrow the Iraqi part of the federation and recreate Iraq. While many Iraqi generals within the coup wanted to join the UAR, the coup leader Abdul Qasim wouldn't join the union, as from what I heard off a Wikipedia page, Qasim would be distrustful of Nasser and the union or just wanted absolute power in Iraq. Within the country of Lebanon, pan-Arabists and pro-Western forces would fight in the streets over whether or not to join the UAR. Due to this crisis, the mostly pro-Lebanese government would call for American support as they feared a coming coup from pan-Arabists. American intervention would come due to fears of Nasser becoming a communist, which he wasn't planning to. American intervention would also halt violence across the country and would even open negotiations between both sides, ending the 1958 Lebanese crisis. Opposition to the UAR wasn't just an external thing but an internal thing too. While at first Syrians did support the union, many prominent Syrian generals, businessmen, and oddly enough Ba'athist supporters would oppose the union. While people would expect the Ba'athists to support Nasser, they didn't. Well, initially they did, but after a while they'd begin to despise the union as more and more Syrian political parties, Syrian generals, businessmen, and Ba'athist supporters would be replaced with Egyptians or Syrians super loyal to Nasser, making Syria, in the eyes of some, nothing but a province, a part of Egypt. This would annoy the Syrian political parties, generals, businessmen, and Ba'athists, leading to the 1961 Syrian coup, which would oust and purge Nasser pan-Arabists within the Syrian region. While Nasser initially was going to amass an army and take back Syria, he would later let the Syrians leave the republic and recreate Iraq, as he claimed he didn't want to see Arabs fighting Arabs, thus ending the UAR in 1961. But not Egypt keeping the name until 1971 because breakups are hard to deal with, you know. Now, what if the UAR remained? One reason why the UAR collapsed was because of Nasser's aggressiveness of implementing Egyptian rule over Syria. In one case, Nasser could simply sent in his army and kicked off the Arab Civil War. Now, yes, I know it really wouldn't be considered a Arab Civil War since not every single Arab is in the Civil War, but it just sounds more dramatic that way. Now, if Nasser were to kick off this Arab Civil War, we would need Syrian rebels not able to gain control of the military bases of Latvia and Aleppo. In our timeline, the military bases within these cities had troops loyal to Nasser but would surrender to Syrian rebels during the coup. In this timeline, the rebels would just taken too long to surround these military bases and force a surrender, or we would see them driven out by the UAR army. If anything, the Arab Civil War would just become a proxy between the West and the East. And if Nasser was able to fight off the rebels and win the war, he would most likely just begin a purge of non-Nasser supporters within the Syrian region. This can cause anger with the Syrian population against Nasser and the Union and can even lead to future conflicts of succession. In the second case, Nasser would just have to be more open to Syrian rules and laws and would just have to deal with the Syrian elites, political parties, and the army in more indirect or peaceful ways. Nasser could have dealt with the political parties by allowing them to have a political life within the UAR. To put it short, had Nasser not banned them, they probably would have supported Nasser. Dealing with the generals would simply be keeping them in their already positions. Nasser was known for moving Syrian generals from powerful positions and replacing them with Egyptians or Syrians only loyal to Nasser. To put it short, if Nasser was just less intrusive with the Syrian political life, we would have probably never seen the 1963 coup. In this scenario, had the UAR continued, the UAR could have added in Yemen, as Yemen was already a part of a confederacy called the United Arab States, aka the UAS. And if Yemen were to leave this confederacy, like what they did in our timeline, the UAR would just have to wait for the North Yemen Civil War and support their proxies until they oust the king, like in our timeline. And just like American foreign policy post on 11, the UAR would try to get its hands on Iraq. Like I stated earlier, most coup leaders were willing to join the UAR, but coup leader Qasim didn't want to. Qasim would be ousted in another coup, the 1963 Ramadan Revolution, in which Qasim was killed, and talk of recreating the UAR was in the air, but nothing actually happened. Had the UAR remained and Qasim was ousted and Nasser wasn't very intrusive with the Syrian life, we can see the Iraqis joining the UAR, and the possibility, but this is a stretch, Libya and Sudan joining, as they were known for joining Egypt's endeavor of creating a Pan-Arab state, or Pan-Arab Confederacy, or Pan-Arab Republic, or Pan-Arab Union. There was a lot of attempts to create a Pan-Arab state. Had this happened, the UAR would be bordering Saudi Arabia and Jordan, which wouldn't be so great for the kingdoms, as the kings and the Baathists and Pan-Arabists were stuck in a Cold War against each other. During the bigger Cold War era, the UAR would most likely fight Israel like in our timeline. Now, would they be successful? I don't know, and I don't feel like researching Arab-Israeli wars because that's gonna be a whole new kind of worms I'm not ready for. The Saudis would just continue to gain arms from the US while supporting any proxy they can against the UAR, so American and Saudi relationships stay the same like in our timeline. Now, would the Middle East be different from what it is today? I don't know. The UAR could possibly be uniting 4 or more countries in the Arab world, 2 that are huge in the Middle East. Will the Arab Spring happen? Probably. Will the UAR survive it? I don't know. Thank you very much for watching my video and giving your time to see my alternate history and all that. Also, if you do like my type of videos, why not try checking out this video right here or that video over there. Also, heads up, my uploading schedule will be more wonky than it is already because school's about to kick off, and just a heads up. And thank you for watching my video again, and Basistan Zindabad!